Strategy games come in all shapes and sizes, but grand strategies go big. Massive kingdoms, armies, and worlds await, but are you big enough to take command of these empires? Let's find out, and welcome to the biggest upcoming real-time grand strategy games in 2024. In the Industrial Revolution, we have Gilded Destiny. This is a grand strategy game depicting the transformative era of the Industrial Revolution. You take the helm of a country of your choice and transform it from a backward agrarian society to an industrial powerhouse. There's a massive globe for you to play on, which consists of over 1 million plus hexagons with distinct biomes, terrains, and weather patterns reflecting the real world. There's an intricate global supply and demand simulation. It is pausable real time. There's simulation of population, culture, migration, assimilation. There's even elements of some city building and factory construction. And you'll be able to define and execute your leadership in your own specific strategy, determining policies in terms of economics, labor, social, diplomatic, and military, all while making technological breakthroughs to advance your people. And there is also an editor for the world, so you can mod this game and create your own little worlds for you to play on, with Steam Workshop support. So this is a game where if it takes off, there'll be extra content from the community. This does seem very interesting, and it's promising so much simulation, which would be great if it does do it. It looks great, and if Gilded Destiny does deliver on all its promises of simulation, then this could be a really interesting grand strategy. Now, it's aiming for a 2024 release at the moment. There's plenty of dev diaries as they develop through the game, and hopefully they do deliver on all of their promises. Next, we've got King's Orders. This is a more simplified historical grand strategy game with some innovations. You command your armies by sending letters with orders. Messengers will actually travel and deliver these letters, and they can be lost or intercepted. But your generals will only execute the orders once they receive the letters and send you reports of what happened the same way. So this is a grand strategy game which is a little bit scaled down, so it's like mini grand, but this idea of actually delivering orders with letters is kind of how it used to really work. You don't just, float in the sky and click on your generals and tell them what to do. You actually have to come up with what you want to do and send the command out, and sometimes those commands don't reach their destinations. And I think that's a very interesting twist on the grand strategy genre. Now, this game is set in medieval Europe, from frozen Scandinavia to the deserts of Africa. Your goal is to claim new territories, expand your influence, and there are unique scenarios you can play out as well. But it really all comes down to your overall grand strategy as monarch, trying to time your orders to go out with letters and traversal times. It's just a whole nother layer for you to consider. So although King's Orders does scale down a little bit on the grand strategy side, it adds in more complication on another front, which at least brings us a new kind of game-ish. Now, there's no set release window right now, but development has been coming along, so we should see a lot more of King's Order going through the year. Espiocracy. This is an espionage grand strategy game where you lead the intelligence agency of one of 74 playable countries. Rewrite history from the shadows as you influence ideologies, stage coups, and wage proxy wars. Subterfuge takes center stage as you establish a new world order. In this game, the world is recovering from the devastation of World War II, and everything is in turmoil. You'll have to prepare for nuclear brinkmanship, the space race, decolonization, and the instability that generally the world is balancing on a knife's edge. You will, however, be able to deploy foreign and domestic agents to manipulate public opinion, support and establish political factions, stoke the flames of independence, and shatter the status quo. There's a lot to this, as there tends to be with grand strategy games. You make use of 34 different types of operations that you can do across the world. Agents will act with relative autonomy based on your orders, and you will have to manage things like budgets and your staff across a variety of nations, which are affected by the various geopolitical and socio-economic circumstances. This game does take the grand strategy genre in a slightly different direction, where usually it's all about war and, military action and stuff like that. Or at least games that would center around that as a core mechanic. But here it is about diplomacy, about espionage. It is about creating situations that will lead to what you want in the world. So Espiocracy might be what you're looking for. At least it's a fresh take. But if you want more war, don't worry, we've got more of that in the list. For now, Espiocracy is aiming for a 2024 release window, but nothing specific yet. And then we have Fragile Existence. Save humanity from the brink of extinction in this sci-fi strategy game of survival. You travel among the stars to seek out resources, establish and develop colonies to sustain civilization, and you grow your military might to push back against an overwhelming threat. Grand strategy in space can be exciting, or it can be a bit of a grind. But in this game, you are fleet commander of what remains, really. And it's up to you to make sure humanity can survive. You scout ahead to plot a course through the systems, you'll be organizing your fleet for optimal results, and it's all going to be centered around a battle for resources. Each planet you come across holds potential risks and rewards, and you'll actually be sending down ground expeditions which are directly under your control. So you do actually go down to the planet's surface where you must lead your people. And then you can pacify planets, shift resources around as needed, and overall resist extinction because it's space, everything's trying to kill you. So at first glance, this does seem like just a fleet command kind of game, but it gets more complicated and advanced and deep as you go along. You also have to strive for technological supremacy, redesign ships, and just managing your civilization through all these stars seems like it's just gonna be a huge monumental task. And at the end of the day, sometimes you just can't cope and you do just have to escape. So tactical retreat is always an option. Also, fun point, mod support is a thing, a planet editor as well. So if this game takes off, the community can make more stuff, which we'll have to wait and see if they can actually do that. Right now, Fragile Existence is aiming for a 2024 release. We'll see if they manage to pull it off. Hey, now that you're a bit into the list, I'm sure you're enjoying it, so it would be greatly appreciated if you can like the video. Thank you. Alright, next game. We've got Ultimate General American Revolution. This is a sandbox strategy game featuring an epic historical period during the rebellion of the American colonies against the British Empire. You take on the role of the American colonists, and you'll be fighting for territorial control over North America. It's a real-time campaign where you can build your army and navy, you'll be constructing military infrastructure, and you'll have full command of your armies on a regimental level. But it also says you can zoom in and fight massive battles on a battalion level, so you can fight and command how you want in this game. Now, a little bit like King's Orders, there is delayed reporting here where realistic reconnaissance is simulated, so messages take time to be delivered before you actually know what's happening, and they can be intercepted or delayed by the enemy, so sometimes your orders will not reach your troops in time or at all. Now, besides your army and fleet, you will need to build and manage military infrastructure, you'll have to keep your troops supplied, you'll be developing your headquarters to keep your army functional, and you need to manage funds and allocate them to the right departments to make sure everything runs as smoothly as possible. Now, this is from the developers of some other Ultimate General games, including Civil War and Dreadnoughts, and they've all been quite positively reviewed, so if you've been into those other games, then this just might be the thematic twist that you've been waiting for, but if you haven't played the others, then maybe this one will be for you. I mean, I suppose if you're into the historical period of the American Revolution, then yeah, this is gonna be right up your alley. It's looking to have an early access release sometime in 2024, and it's supposed to be in early access for around half a year. It could get a full release in 2024, probably late 2024, but it might only get a full release in 2025, but it depends when it releases into early access. Already in early access, World Warfare and Economics. In this game, you control any country in the world. You have their politics, economy, and military in your hands, and you shape your own version of World War III, a global pandemic, or create a custom scenario. You can even explore up to 66 planets and conquer through war or diplomacy. So generally, this game sounds kind of crazy. It does say you can lead any of the 220 countries/colonies, including some disputed ones. You manage every aspect of the economy. Battles are large-scale wars in real time. You'll be advancing your country's technologies with more than 300 technologies to master. And you will actually be able to explore the universe, traveling through space and sending probes, rovers, and crews to other planets across the universe and win international space races. All the while on the political side, you'll be winning elections, forming coalitions, and fostering support from other political parties within your country. Though it does say the political stuff is optional for those who love politics. So generally this game does just seem like it has a little bit of everything, and it's hard to fit it all into a short overview video like this. So, this game is already in early access with mostly positive user reviews on Steam, over 70% positive, and it went into early access right at the end of 2023, and it's looking for around a year in early access, so it is aiming for a 2024 full release. With a game as complicated as this, it could go into 2025. Since it's in early access, you can have a closer, more in-depth look at World Warfare and Economics and see if this game is for you. Traveling to the 1500s, Renaissance Kingdom Wars. This is a grand strategy and RTS hybrid where you play one of 100 characters across medieval Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. You start as a landless mercenary captain, and you fight your way to become a minor lord, rising up through the kingdom's hierarchy and eventually being crowned and fighting to expand your kingdom. So you start small and grow big in this one. You'll be building your cities, waging your wars, and serving your king until you become king, and experiencing siege combat with what they call brutal battles. Interestingly, you can get up close and personal. You can enter towns and do some city building, constructing individual buildings and walls and positioning your troops for RTS elements. But at the same time, you can manage everything from the world map for a grander scale. And the world map itself is supposed to be huge, with dozens of kingdoms and over 500 towns and hamlets to start the game in. Then of course, as with many of these grand strategy historical games, the world just changes over time, so you need to adapt and figure out how you're going to make your way through and survive, really. So, Renaissance Kingdom Wars. It looks really interesting, and just the level of detail you can zoom in and do with your cities and the whole mix with RTS, it does make it sound like a very active kind of game. But we'll find out more when it releases into early access. They're looking at Q1 2024 for early access, and it's only supposed to last several months, with a promise to release in 2024, but we'll see how that goes. Quite often, games which plan only a few months in early access, they tend to go much longer. So maybe a full release in 2024 for Renaissance Kingdom Wars, but maybe not. With a similar flavor, but scaling down a bit, Small Kingdoms. I know it's kind of weird talking about small kingdoms in a grand strategy game. Well, this is a game where you rule a small fantasy kingdom and conquer your rivals as you build up cities and armies on a world map and command troops on the battlefield. So it pretty much is a grand strategy game. It's just more streamlined, and there's the RTS element, which seems to be a popular trend in the real-time grand strategy genre right now. And there's procedurally generated world maps and campaigns that you can complete in a weekend. For a grand strategy, a weekend to complete a game is actually kinda short. But for many other games, a couple days to finish one game, that's a long time. But this is the grand strategy genre. You'll be playing as one of the many kingdoms with their own set of islands and cities. The cities themselves, you'll be constructing buildings, gathering resources, and training units to garrison and conquer. And you can specialize them into like economic powerhouses or basically military camps. And your armies will be composed of what you want, and you can command them directly on the battlefield, so you can use your superior tactics to overcome your enemies. Generally, I think this is a nice little game. I mean, the grand strategy genre already has these massive games that take dozens of hours to even learn the basics, and you have to dedicate thousands of hours to even come close to mastering them. So if you've been daunted by this subgenre of strategy games, then maybe you could start in Small Kingdoms, or maybe you've just got a job and you really want to play a grand strategy, but you just don't have the time, then there's Small Kingdoms. Back into space, Terra Invicta. From the creators of Long War, an alien invasion has fractured humanity into 7 ideological factions, each with a unique vision for the future. Lead your chosen faction to take control of Earth's nations, you expand across the solar system, and battle enemy fleets in tactical combat. Of the 7 factions you can choose from, their names pretty much give their ideology away. The Resistance, Humanity First, the Servants, the Protectorate, the Academy, the Initiative, and Project Exodus. Yes, Project Exodus do plan to build a massive starship and flee the solar system. Now, whichever way you go about this, you'll be investigating the alien threat from early sightings and UFO crash sites, but eventually you're gonna get rampaging alien megafauna and robotic armies, so things are going to escalate here. The game also has a global research system that creates opportunities both for competition and cooperation between the factions. There will be geopolitics across the world. You'll have your council of politicians, scientists, and operatives doing your bidding. And you'll want to try and convert the people of the world to your ideology so you get more support and power. Now, beyond Earth, you'll be building space stations and shipyards and fuel depots. And because it's space, the map is constantly shifting as celestial bodies orbit the sun. So your space stations and all of those space military bases are also moving through 3D space, which will have some effects on how things work. Eventually, you will colonize space, design spaceships, and fight in space warfare. Also, good point, this is built for mods, so they are planning for community content and for modders to create their own visions. So it sounds really exciting. This game has actually been in early access since late 2022, so it's been over a year now. And it's got very positive reviews at 80% positive right now. However, it was only supposed to be in early access for several months. They did say, but possibly longer, but yeah, that's what I mean by games that plan for several months in early access. Generally, they take much longer. And yeah, one point seems to be that the early game and the late game are basically 2 different games. So you might prefer the early game or the late game by itself and not like the whole game, which seems to be a sticking point for some people who try this game. But have a closer look at it if you're intrigued, and maybe Terra Invicta will be the whole package for you. And then for another genre mix, Kaiserpunk. This game is very interesting because it seems to be combining city building and grand strategy. Well, they're trying to make it seamlessly. And that seems to be the trend with a lot of grand strategies these days, where it's trying to mix in other genres, particularly RTS or city building. And in Kaiserpunk, you're supposed to build and conquer in an alternative 20th century world. You engage in battle on land, sea, and air, and you use your economic power to emerge as the ultimate victor. So you'll be shaping your own city-state from the ground up, where every street, factory, and skyline is up to you. You unlock new buildings and building upgrades. You build on ground and on water, and new tech is unlocked depending on how you build your city. On the grand strategy side, there's over 100 regions to be conquered and exploited. Each region comes with its own bonuses and penalties, so you gotta choose where you want to go. And you'll be assembling your armies to take on the rival factions of the world on land, sea, and air. There's also production chains and logistics, where there's over 100 various resources to mine, farm, refine, and manufacture, and you have to get things around with transportation networks and trade. Overall, it's a game of choices. You're going to be choosing things at every step of the way, and if you make the wrong choices, you may be stripped of your power. I mean, personally, this seems very, very promising. It looks really nice to look at actually. As a city builder fan, this might be the in point for getting into grand strategies and just scaling up that gameplay. But you know, it really comes down to how it's all executed. And right now, Kaiserpunk is just looking at a 2024 release at some point. Nothing specific yet, but I am personally very curious of what Kaiserpunk is gonna be at the end of the day. There you have it. Press the like button and get games using the GOG referral link below to support videos like this one. Click the link and buy any game. It really does help. Also, thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members who really support this channel and keeping videos like these being made. Join if you want your name on future videos. If you want to stay in the know for another genre, go to the next list video linked on screen, as I'm sure grand commanders like yourself would not want to miss all the RTS and 4X strategy games in the other lists. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.